So is there something that we might offer to our listeners that might guide them into some feeling of what we're talking about?
Honestly, I think that what would be the most accessible would be to encourage folks when they're watching this, that they're able to recline, and if they have either a thick book or a yoga block nearby. And I'm used to, as a teacher, giving instructions without practicing it. So what I'm going to offer, when you're watching this, if you're able to find a comfortable place to recline, bringing your back on the ground with your knees bent and the feet underneath the hips. So it's what we call constructive rest. The knees might fall in for a moment, lengthen the tailbone, and just kind of settle in for a couple of breaths and just arrive in your space. Maybe even close your eyes or gaze softly down your nose, and the palms can rest wherever is most comfortable. And after a couple centering breaths, what I would encourage people to do to kind of build a little bit of that practice with the root chakra, as well as maybe strengthening, if you're in a place of not just wanting to practice, but also strengthen, and you might bring the feet underneath the hips. And so the knees are hip width distance, and lengthen the arms so the palms are face down and the arms are along the side body. For extra support, you might bend the elbows as you point the fingertips up towards the ceiling or the sky if you happen to be watching this if you're outside. And so either the palms face down or palms pointing upward as the forearms come into the sides. That's for extra support. The knees are pointing away from you, and on an inhale, press into the feet as you start to lift the hips. And it's really pressing the earth away. I know as yoga teachers, you often hear us say, okay, lift the hips, lift the heart a little bit, but it's really grounding. If we're focusing on that root chakra, as you lengthen your tailbone and press the feet into the earth, you're pressing the feet away. And clearly, as I'm encouraging you to lift, on your next exhale, you would want to then slowly, if you haven't already, release the hips to the earth and continue that with your own breath, pressing into the feet on your inhale as you lift the thighs, and on the exhale, slowly lower the hips to the earth. And you'll continue that for a few rounds and just kind of tune in. Maybe if your eyes weren't closed, you might close the eyes and really focus in on lengthening the tailbone as you maybe maintain the lift. If it feels comfortable for you, maybe that you have the block pressed in between your knees or a thick book or two pressed into the knees, because that just helps sometimes with body awareness. And if it feels comfortable to maintain, you might interlace the palms underneath you and point the knees away energetically, but not physically. Drag the heels back. So pointing the knees away, drag the heels back, and that's going to help engage the thighs. And again, I've said this a few times, but if you keep lengthening the tailbone, draw the lower ribs in. What you're wanting to do is protect the low back. Try and soften through the heart space. And after a few moments on your next exhale, maybe release. And then it's totally up to you if you want to try and come back to that a couple of different rounds. And when you're lifted, that focus on the root lock is bringing your attention into that base of the spine and feeling maybe a little bit of openness, maybe a little bit of lightness after a couple rounds of what we would refer to as bridge pose. So hopefully that's something that can be helpful.
Wow. Thank you. Just hearing that felt good.
You're welcome.
Karen, is there anything that you would offer?
I don't know if my light's good. I pulled out a so I don't know if I can modify the light here, but I think, and I thought I had set this up earlier to be able to see. I think in terms of just like, so very quickly, when we talk about like identification of the pelvic floor, oftentimes doing some sitting on a soft surface and just allowing your brain to kind of find that pelvic floor, and do that through just awareness of your sits bones and a soft surface, whether it's a ball or a soft chair, where you're lengthening through the spine, so you're sitting in a good upright posture, and then finding your breath into the deeper abdomen, the lower abdomen, with the breath in, and you should feel the pelvic floor release into the ball or the softer surface. With the breath out, a complete exhale out, you'll feel that pelvic floor pull up and in. So again, you find your space, kind of rock, sit, bone, back and forth, and then just becoming aware that that is the pelvic floor, that you're sitting on the pelvic floor, and finding a breath in would release, and an exhale, deep exhale, you'll feel kind of what we call a passive recoil of that pelvic floor. So just a quick tip for awareness, like where is that pelvic floor? And so again, like we were referred to earlier about just connecting with those muscles.
I think another great way to try would be if you're in this area, Hampton Roads area, to come out and see Danielle or Erin.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those. Well, thank you for those offerings. And it was just dunking a baby toe into into what we can offer ourselves. Thank you so much, everyone.
Absolutely. It was fun. It was fun. It was so nice
to meet
you,
lot.
Danielle. So did
Great
I.
to meet you.
You too. You too. Thank you for putting this together, Hannah and Dr. Ojo.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us.